Hello, I'm Rick Hertless, founder of His Gospel Power. Thank you for joining with our program as we look into the book of Daniel and as we do a study on our last days here on this earth before the coming of Jesus Christ. And so we are looking at how the prophecy and how Scripture relates to us as we are facing the last days and how we should live for Jesus in these last days. Before we get to that, please go to hisgospelpower.org, click on the donate button or the contact us button, and thank you so much to all of those who do support our ministry through your prayers and through your financial support. Okay, we are in Daniel chapter 10. We're in the 15th verse. We now have seen an angel that has come to Daniel and is talking about the vision that Daniel has had. So now Daniel chapter 10 verse 15 says, "When he had spoken such words to me, I turned my face towards the ground and became speechless. And suddenly, one having the likeness of the sons of men touched my lips, and then I opened my mouth and I spoke, saying to him who stood before me, My Lord, because of the vision my sorrows have overwhelmed me, and I have retained no strength. For how can this servant of my Lord talk with you, my Lord? As for me, no strength remains in me now, nor is there any breath left in me." We've talked about this actually through the week. We talked about this in the beginning of the week and how he sees these visions and they are so frightening to him that he almost cannot withstand, and he goes into mourning because he sees the devastation that is going to happen, and he goes into mourning. And he loses strength because of the power, basically, I guess, that it comes from him. Remember when Jesus was walking on the earth, after his ministry, many times he would have to go and go away from the multitudes for for hours and maybe even days to regain his strength. And that is really, and that was the man side of Jesus. Now, Jesus was not half man, half God. He wasn't the son of Zeus or something like that. He was fully man and fully God. And can we understand that? No, we cannot. But the Bible is very specific, very clear. He's fully man. He's fully God. And so, the man part of Jesus, he would have to go rest because the body cannot withstand that kind of power going through it. I believe it would literally disintegrate. If all the power of God tried to come through us, I think it would disintegrate. So now these angels, evidently, that are talking to Daniel, they look like men, or at least one of them does. Because he says, suddenly one having the likeness of the sons of men. So in other words, he looked like a man, touched my lips, and then opened my mouth and spoke, saying to him who stood before me. So at that point, he's so tired and exhausted, he can't even open his mouth. But the angel gives him the power to be able to do that. So then, let's continue. I guess we might just try to go all the way through chapter 10. It says, "Then again, the one having the likeness of a man touched me and strengthened me. And he said, O man greatly beloved, fear not. Peace be to you, be strong, yes, be strong. So when he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, Let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, Do you know why I have come to you? And now I must return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I have gone forth, indeed the prince of Greece will come. But I will tell you that it is noted in the scripture of truth, no one upholds me against these except Michael, your prince." So he's telling about the power of Satan, basically. And it sounds like, now I know I said earlier, we did say that the prince of Persia was Satan, but possibly, because he also talks about the prince of Greece. He also talks about, earlier, the princes of Persia.
And it also says, Michael, your prince.
It is possible that these are the main ones that are under Satan, like the prince of Persia, the prince of Greece. Because the prince of Persia for sure is not God's angel. Okay, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, he just
And the prince of Greece, it does not, because he's going to be fighting against Michael and this other angel, so they're not God's messengers that we're talking about here. We are definitely talking about the foe of God. So it is possible that what we're looking at here, even the prince of Persia and the prince of Greece, are like the next in command to Satan, or at least some very high angels to Satan.
this passage really makes you. It would make for a great movie. Let's put it that way, about the angelic battles that there are, and makes you wonder if he's fighting these princes, if angels are immortal, like we think they are.
If they're immortal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they're eternal beings.
Right. When they fight...
In fact, they're spiritual beings, so that's eternal.
Right. So thinking about that, in a battle, it's almost like, what would that battle go like? And the first thing that came to my mind was, does their power come from... Now, we know the angels, their power comes from God, but does their success come from the followers within that area that they're sent to either be at or engage in or protect? It makes you wonder, because if a good angel's fighting a bad angel, don't you think he'd just automatically win? Well, what if, say America, we're going to the side of debauchery? Are the angels either told to pull back and let the demonic angels take their grasp, and then based off the prayers of the believers, they are given more authority to move back in? It almost seems like that may be what's going on here.
You know, well, we can get convoluted really quick, especially a lot of it is supposition. For sure, if you know Jesus Christ, you have a guardian angel.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because he's talking about the prince of
areas. I know, but you're talking about, yes, and I think for sure there are different demons over different areas, okay? But now, all right, let's talk about individuals for a moment that do not know Jesus Christ. Now, God is still trying to get them saved. So it is possible that there's that guardian angel around them until they have rejected Christ. And then, of course, they don't need to be guarded any longer. They've rejected Christ. Their eternity is already sealed, and it's sealed with Satan. And so if they were to die, they die, or Satan doesn't mess with them anymore because he doesn't need to, because they've rejected Christ. They've already committed the unpardonable sin, something to that effect. But like I said, we're not talking about a lot of legs here. We're not talking about a lot of scripture reference. We're talking about supposition. Yes, what you were saying, I believe there are different, and of course, this gives legs to that there are different angels to different provinces.
Right.
Such as America, and it would make sense, because remember now, God's laws are still God's laws. And so God's laws, you can see in heaven, Satan would probably had patterned his hierarchy the same way he had seen it done in heaven, much like it's done in the entire world.
Right.
So we see that, we've got Michael, who is evidently the top of the heap, who sends others out. And so Satan would be the same kind of thing, to where he's got minions under him that control, maybe he's got 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever it is he's got that are next in command. Then under those he has hundreds, and under those he has thousands, and under those he has millions, And so it would make sense that he has one for, let's say he's got one for America. He's got one for, say, Williamson County. He's got one for, say, Granger. I live in the city of Granger. That's in Williamson County. That's in Texas. That's in America. So we got, that kind of hierarchy goes down. I think we can safely say, especially seeing this, that there are angels for different areas, and it would continuously go down in rank for each area that we're at.
Yeah, and to me, it really seems like I wouldn't say their power. I would say their authority to operate is based off believers or unbelievers in that area.
And that would make sense.
Because if you think about it, say a city, the city you or I live in, were all believers, those angels would have no power there.
Well, they would have to work hard. They'd have to work harder also, though. Do you think about it? Because you're operating in an area where there's a bunch of believers, there would be warfare going on all the time. And so they would probably have to fight. I think where they would be the relaxed ones would be in the atheist community, where they're just sitting around and they're reporting back to Satan and say, well, nothing really going on here today. We're just kind of laying back. Everybody, Joe over there is still running around with somebody's wife, and Sam over there is still drunk from yesterday, and all of those kind of things. And it's like, so there's really nothing going on here. I don't have any battles to fight. But when there's Christians, I think that's when they're actually doing most of the fighting, because now all of a sudden they've got to make sure that Christian does not convert somebody else. So the fight has to be on. So I think it might be opposite of what you just said.
Well, yeah, they may be trying to get in harder. I was thinking more of the aspect of
I know
God's
resist
angels.
The devil and he must flee from you. I know you were coming from that aspect.
Yeah, if everyone's a believer, the only angels that are operating in there are God's angels.
Well, let's go with your scenario for just a second. Let's just use a church, for example. Is it possible, and I think this is highly possible, you have a bunch of believers in this church, they say they're believers anyway, and they're doing absolutely nothing. Maybe they're building a building, or maybe they're doing a Christmas program or an Easter pageant or whatever, but they're their own club, and the only ones, they're not evangelizing. They're showing up every week, the same exact ones. Nothing's ever different. They hear the same messages. Everything's always the same. Well, would the demons need to do anything to them? No, they're not doing anything. So really, that scenario that you're saying, if you've got a group of quote unquote believers that are doing absolutely nothing, well, there's no reason for the demons to make a stir. They don't want them to be doing anything. So the last thing that if I was a demon, the last thing I'd want to do for a church that's sitting around doing nothing is have, say, the police to come in and stir them up and say, well, we're going to arrest you all because you're Christians. Guess what that would do? All of a sudden, those who had faith would have to rise up and begin to do something. And so at that point, you're stirring the pot, and those demons would be like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to leave them alone. They're doing nothing. They're being fine. Unfortunately, I think that's the scenario I see with most American churches today, is they're doing nothing, so leave them alone.
And it's real interesting you make that point, because especially here in Texas, it seems like we get the most church shootings here. But what I hear every time, the churches that get attacked seem to be the spiritually strongest ones. We don't hear about gunmen going into these, what you and me know as dead churches. They always seem to go after the spiritually strong ones, and it fits exactly into what you just said. Satan's not going to go and attack spiritually weak people.
No, they're spiritually dead that are doing absolutely nothing. Why would he want to mess with them?
But you personally knew, where was that church at?
I wish you hadn't said that, because now I can't think of it either.
Springs. Springs.
Yes. And I still can't.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, I preached there, and now I can't remember what
right,
it was.
But that one and several others recently, I hear stories about how spiritually strong those churches are. We don't hear any stories about gunmen going into churches and everybody goes, yeah, that was a dead church anyways. We're not going to miss, I hate to put it that way, but they're going to be like, yeah, God's kingdom didn't lose anything from that church.
Sutherland Springs.
So, yeah, we don't hear that story about, oh, yeah, they went into a dead church anyways. God's not going to lose out anything there. Right. We always hear about them. Those were spiritually strong churches that were attacked.
Right, exactly. And so that's the whole point, is that Satan is not going to mess with something that's dead already. It's like, just leave that alone. You don't want to revive it. If you go in there and you start doing a lot of persecution. What does persecution do to the church?
Makes it stronger.
It makes it stronger. It revives it every time. And so it's like, if they're dead, Satan's not going to be like, okay, go in there and let's do persecution. Now, eventually, I guess enough has to go on to where Satan just says, well, we've got to, they're doing enough in that church. People are getting healed.
Almost the fight's too much for him.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, what about the little church that's doing nothing really, but there are strong people of faith. They come in there and they do get healed. There's still a little clique, but they get healed. At that point, I think maybe Satan has to say, you know what, guys, we can't let this set any longer because they're getting too much faith. And so then he goes in and persecutes, because that would probably be what would happen in Jerusalem. Remember with the first church, with Acts, God said, okay, let's remove that for a second. I was just about to say, well, so Satan goes in there and does the persecution. Did Satan do that or did God? See, God said, go into all the world and give the gospel. When they got saved in Jerusalem with the first church, what'd they do? They sat around and they said, hey, this is great. Everybody in Jerusalem was getting saved, and let's don't go anywhere. The whole world can't get saved that way.
Well,
so God he didn't persecute,
but
he allowed the persecution, maybe because of the flesh. You still can't remove that factor either. You can't give Satan all of the credit. You've got these kings that have the flesh and the ego, and they're like, well, they're not doing what I want them to do, and so I'm going to go, and they're a danger to my kingdom because they won't. What if they don't listen to me? Then you got the flesh jumping up also. So there's other scenarios.
Well, it goes right
in that we can't discount.
Well, and it goes right back to the churches. Which I believe they were strong churches. Why did God allow a gunman to go in there and kill him? Well, look at the testimony that came out of it. I believe those people that were shot and killed, God allowed them to be killed because he knew where they were going, and the resulting witness was going to be for his glory. So I'm one of those. I believe God allows it to happen. He doesn't make it happen.
No, he allowed. No, I didn't mean that was not. Well, and that was kind of the question, because God does not tempt us. Okay. The devil tempts us. God tests us. And part of the test in that was allowing that man who was either possessed by Satan or his ego of the flesh led him to do it, whichever one the case may be. He was not being controlled by God. He was being controlled by either the flesh or by Satan or by both. So all of those scenarios, still God does not tempt us. Satan does. Okay, well, that's a whole discussion for a whole nother day, and we're out of time. Thank you for joining with us. Please go to hisgospelpower.org, click on the donate button or the contact us button. And thank you so much to all of those who do support our ministry through your prayers and through your financial support. Until next time, I pray you receive His gospel power today.
He died for you. He died for me. From our sin, He set us free. He loved us so, His life He gave. So if we ask, we can be saved. He's calling you, He's calling you. Jesus Christ is calling you. If He's touched your heart and soul, let Jesus make you whole. Come kneel with me and we will pray. all your sin be washed away.